Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. As we think about and reflect upon our reading yesterday in 2 Kings chapter 17, and we compare that to what we see in 2 Kings chapter 18, we can see a stark contrast between these two chapters. In chapter 17, we saw the sins of Israel and how those sins had led them to captivity by the Assyrians. But in chapter 18, in our reading today, we see the faithfulness of Hezekiah and the reforms that he brought that led to a deliverance from Assyria. And so for the readers of 2 Kings, whether it would be people who lived in this time or the exiles later on, or even us today, as we read these two chapters held side by side, we see that God makes a designation between those who rebel against him, who will not listen to his voice, and those who have a tender heart towards him and love him and are committed to him. And so that's one of the first things that jumps out at a person as they read these two chapters. And as we think about that and reflect on it, we can look at the example we find in Hezekiah in chapter 18 to help us to kind of have a model to follow to get us back on track sometimes when we begin to drift away from the Lord, we begin to backslide, we begin to rebel against the Lord. We can follow this model given to us by Hezekiah to get us back on track, get us back to being wholly devoted to the Lord once again. And one of the things that Hezekiah did was cleanse the land. In verse 4, it says, he removed the high places and broke down the sacred pillars and cut down the Asherah. He broke in pieces the bronze serpent that Moses had made, for until those days the sons of Israel burned incense to it. And so he got rid of those things that were a hindrance to the people in wholly serving the Lord. And that's one of the first things that we can do as well, is to look in our lives and see, are there things in our lives that are really just becoming a hindrance, a burden to us, a wall that's being built between us and God? And what can we do to lessen those barriers? What can we do to rid ourselves of the things that are obstructing our view of the Lord each and every day? The second thing he did was trust in the Lord. He placed his trust in the Lord. In verse 5, it says, he trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel, so that after him there was none like him among all the kings of Judah, nor among those who were before him. So once he cleansed the land, once he got rid of all those idols, what was there left to trust in? Just to trust in the Lord. And that's what we do as well. As we rid ourselves of all the distractions, all the things that get in our way of really loving the Lord, once those things are dealt with decisively, then we can place our trust wholly in the Lord because he has our complete attention. And then he clung to the Lord. Verse 6, for he clung to the Lord. He did not depart from following him, but kept his commandments which the Lord had commanded Moses. Clinging to means that he didn't just kind of dabble in obedience to the Lord. He didn't just kind of go in and out, fade in and out in reverence to God, but he clung to the Lord. It shows a steadfast heart in wanting to follow the Lord. And that's the same thing that we need as well if we want to reform our ways. If we want to come back to the Lord, is to do it with a steadfast spirit, to say, Lord, I'm not just going to turn to you every once in a while, but I'm going to cling to you because I want to obey you with all of my heart. In every moment of every day, I want to give my whole life to you. And so this is a great model that we can follow in turning our hearts back to the Lord by cleansing our lives of those things that are becoming a hindrance to us and keeping us from drawing close to the Lord, by then trusting in the Lord, placing our trust in him and not on other things, other gods, other idols, other people perhaps, and then just clinging to the Lord, holding fast to the Lord, just keeping our eyes fixed on him, not drifting away from him, but just walking before him with a steadfast spirit. And the Lord responded to Hezekiah's actions in verses 7 and 8. We see that the Lord was with him. Verse 7, and the Lord was with him. The Lord prospered him. It says, wherever he went, he prospered. The Lord gave freedom to Hezekiah. It says he rebelled against the king of Assyria and did not serve him. So he experienced freedom from the king of Assyria, and God gave him victory. In verse 8, he defeated the Philistines as far as Gaza and its territory, from watchtower to fortified city. And so the Lord blessed him by this heart of dedication that he had. And the same things can be expressed in our lives too, or experienced in our lives as well. The Lord will be with us. His presence will come to us. Jesus said, the ones who love me and keep my commandments, he says, me and my Father will come to him and manifest ourselves to him and make our abode with him. As we seek the Lord, as we seek to follow him with all of our heart, we have the Lord with us. But we also have the Lord there to prosper us. And there it may not be in material things like, well, I'm obeying the Lord, so he gives me a 3-story house and a Mercedes. But it definitely means that we prosper spiritually and we prosper in life, to where we feel so filled with life and purpose and meaning in life that our inner self is prospering greatly because it's connected to the God that it was made for. And then we can also have freedom from the bondage of sin. We can have freedom from the bondage of self and the flesh. As our hearts are in tune to the Lord and directed by the Lord, he raises us up above those things. And then we can also have victory. Victory over the enemy, victory over Satan. As we are walking a meaningful, purposeful life before God, devoted to him, each and every day we can overcome Satan, just as the believers did in Revelation chapter 12. And so today, let's get our hearts right with the Lord again. If we've drifted from him, if we've been distracted by many things, let's follow Hezekiah's example. Let's cleanse ourselves of those things that are a distraction. Let's place our trust once again in the Lord, and let's cling to the Lord with everything that we have in obedience and submission to him. And as such, we will look to him for his presence, for a prosperous inner life, a life of freedom, and a life of victory. So these are some things that we can look forward to as we commit our lives to the Lord. And with that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.